So,
well, welcome to the Otherworldly, the Changing Times, Changing Worlds show. This month we have been exploring several topics and how to teach them to kids, because people are very, if you have kids and you have the whether it's divination, whether it's healing, whether it's lore, you want to tell them, but you want to teach them in a way that will not bring child services down to your house. And because after all, give a kid a little power and they can turn into a wretched little bully on the playground, especially if other people are teasing them. It's well, turn me into a frog. Okay. Yes, but tonight we have Starwolf, who is our crystal guy, and he is the what shall I say about Starwolf? Well, you can look in the YouTube to see other crystal workshops with Starwolf. Shaman, witch, professional psychic, Reiki master, physical engineer, soldier of fortune. He's like, basically, he's one of these wonderful people who combine science and magic together to make them both work better. So, I'm going to turn it over to Starwolf because he's cool.
okay. First and foremost, a lot's going to depend on the age of the child you're giving the stones to. If you've got toddlers that are still at the everything goes in the mouth stage, I wouldn't give them any stones. Or if you do, give them ones large enough that they're not going to be able to swallow them. Because the last thing you want to do is have a piece of hematite dissolving in your child's stomach. Because remember, for example, hematite, which, you can lick it, you can play with it, but it is an iron. So it's crystalline iron. And what happens when iron hits hydrochloric acid? You get gas. You get, among other things, the kid is going to basically, it's going to dissolve in the stomach, and one of the side effects is going to be large amounts of hydrogen and oxygen in the kid's stomach. Which means, yeah. And with a small child, that can be dangerous. An adult would just start burping, but a little kid, I don't know. So basically, if you want, for example, you have a kid who's still in a crib, if you are going to put stones in, lift the mattress up, duct tape them to the bottom, and put it back down. That way they can't get to them. Or better yet, secure them to the bottom of the crib. That way their little hands are not going to find little objects, and they're not going to end up in mouths. By the way, that also goes with things like marbles and stuff. Because
you can't play marble.
Well, play marbles will go through the child's system unaffected because they're glass and they're round, and they will eventually, nature will take its course, and
this too will pass.
Yes, exactly. It will pass. But also, once again, if they are somewhat older but still at the maybe might put things in their mouth stage, certain stones would be contraindicated. Malachite being one of them. Galena being definitely another one, because galena is lead ore. That is also one you don't make a crystal elixir from by the standard method, which is put the crystal in a jar of water and leave it in the moonlight. You put it in a clear plastic tube or bottle that can be sealed, and then you put it in the bottle of water, because you do not want your child ingesting lead oxide or copper oxide. So one of the things you need to start with is you need a book. Preferably, well, let's see. this one, this is a good beginner's book. You can get it at Barnes and Noble. I bought this one a few years ago for $10. It's somewhat limited in that it doesn't have, for example, every bit of information on every type of mineral in the world. Or this one is also a good one, Melody's Big Purple Doorstop, which, if you can find the supplements and all, amounts to a pile about 2.5 feet tall. And finally, excuse me, I'm about to be, excuse me, I seem to have created a slide. Oh, there we go. And the final one as a reference book, because this has nice big pictures, is The Book of Stones by Robert Simmons. Okay, so that's not going to work. If I put that one up there, I'm going to get another slide. Okay, so well, it's not where they normally live. I pulled them out of their various spots and have them piled here on the couch with me. Okay, so
is that one that would be?
No, because that's about making things with crystals. That's when they get to the I want to build things stage of life.
You mean if they
like if they like what?
If they like Legos?
I couldn't hear the
Legos.
Yeah. Well, the question being, if you can, but that would be one where they would be working with adult supervision.
Okay.
Because you got to be able to do things like cut copper tubing and depending on how competent with a saw your child is, you're going to want to. That's definitely an adult supervision one.
Okay. Even
if what happens is the adult cuts the pieces and the kid puts them together.
So 12, or when your judgment is that they're ready.
Exactly. Under real adult supervision, maybe as young as 7 or 8, but to let them just, when the kid is old enough to use a kitchen knife, they're old enough to use basically a hacksaw to cut copper tubing apart, or a tubing cutter for that matter. Yeah. The best way I can think of to start your children off with crystals is to go to one of those places that has the big, fill a pouch with crystals for $2, $5. Let them pick out some. Let them grab the crystals or the rocks that they are attracted to. That's the best way. It's the best way to start them. Then you sit down with a good crystal book and you go through them with the child, and you tell them what the things they picked are good for. Now understand, one of the things you are going to get a lot of in those, you are going to get agate that's been dyed. That's what all the bright purple and bright red and, a lot of times the bright blue stones are. But it's fine. Agate is quartz, and quartz is always useful. Indeed, it's amazing how many types of metaphysical stones that people work with are all varieties of quartz with some different minerals in them. If you think about it, you have agate, amethyst, smoky quartz, rose quartz, clear quartz. They are all silicon dioxide with a few minor differences. The difference between citrine and amethyst is citrine was heated either in the earth or in a campfire, which drove some of the iron out of the amethyst and made it yellow as opposed to purple. They keep finding multiple types of aventurine these days. Used to be all you could get was the green stuff, which is basically it's quartz with, I think, chromium. No, bit of beryllium and lots and lots of mica, which is what gives it that little that kind of looks like thousands of little sparks in it. By the way, aventurine comes from the old Italian word avventura, which was a specific style of glass. But when I started, you could only get green aventurine. Now there is red and blue, and I believe they found an orange version. So, I love questions. So as people have questions, please ask. I'm checking the chat here. What was the first book? The first book, excuse me, got to move things. The first book is called Healing Crystals and Gemstones from Amethyst to Zircon by Dr. Flora Pershek-Bomer and Gisela Schreiber. And it is by, let me see who the publisher is. Oh, gods. Should be able to see it on the back, but it is too small for my aging eyes. Konecki and Konecki. I think this may actually be a European publisher. Okay. But it's, oh, no, I'm sorry. It's from Old Saybrook, Connecticut. Ah, but the original copyright is for Munich, Germany. So, but it's a useful little book. It has a few. I mean, I haven't found anything that makes me go, oh no, don't use this. As far as the other two go, Love is in the Earth and Book of Stones, those are, if the main problem is they are somewhat encyclopedic, and they may give you more information than you actually need. Also, with Love is in the Earth, you need to know what the stone is because it has no pictures. It is just one endless, it's a reference book.
But you do, they have the supplement with the pictures.
Yes, they have several supplements with pictures. Book of Stones, thankfully, has pictures. But once again, it's not quite as extensive as Love is in the Earth. Yeah, well, the problem with the Crystal Powers series is Llewellyn hasn't done its, quote, sci-tech series for about 20 years. So yeah, if they're available, they are available out of print.
Reasonably priced, though.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, my idea is let the kids pick their stones. You know, it's a good beginning. The other option is you buy them one of those, you know, minerals of the world cards. I remember getting one when I was in 2nd grade, which had little bits of everything. Well, not everything. There were about 25 stones glued to a piece of cardboard with the names and origins under them. I think I still have the aventurine somewheres, and I know I have the little piece of Apache tear because I made a pendulum out of it. Oh, and I've also got the tiny bit of lapis because it looks like a tooth. But that's in one of my bags somewheres.
What about arrowheads?
As long as you know what they're made of, most arrowheads these days are made in India and they're chipped out of jasper, which just happens to be, a form of quartz. The other ones are from Mexico and they're chipped out of black obsidian usually. Sometimes you get lucky and you find the ones that they've made out of rock crystal. Those are real. They're pretty. I have a bunch because I was considering actually using them to make the heads on arrows to go along with my bronze-headed axe and my bronze spearhead can you say an Otzi toolkit? But once again, arrowheads are nice because you can very quickly wrap them with a little bit of wire and the kid can wear it. The real trick is identifying what form of jasper it is. And once again, you need to compare it to either, if you're buying them at like an actual rock store, of which we're lucky we have 3 in Connecticut.
Mm.
You can compare it to the other stones in the store and figure out what it is. Oh my gods, and I own 2 copies. I looked at the so Love is in the Earth is apparently out of print as well.
Oh my.
Oh,
Yeah, we own 2 or 3 copies. We got different editions as they came out.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
got 2 copies. I've got the one I bought, both of which I found at used bookstores, oddly enough.
Mm.
It's like so many of the good stone books that were published back in the 80s and 90s. They didn't keep them in publication. However,
aha, good
a
news.
few
Eight
years ago,
has it for $42.
Mm. Which is
and
not far
let's
off
see,
the original price.
the original
Yeah.
price I paid for mine was $18.95.
Yeah. Oh, you
Okay.
can get one
And
for so go to the used bookstores. There's one
however,
for 10 at Abe's Books. Yeah.
there are also pocket editions of both Love in the Earth is in the Earth and Book of Stones.
Ah.
I've got those in my kit, and those are useful for. I pull them out when I go to the rock shop, or when I'm going to the big gem and mineral show, so that I will be able to double check my shopping list, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Yeah, you want to know what it is. Like the
You want to
kids-
know what it is. You want to know what its properties are. There are a few stones I would not suggest giving to kids, no matter. The first and most important one being moldavite, unless you want your child bouncing off the walls.
Oh.
What does moldavite do?
Moldavite is a very energetic stone. It's one of the few that I can actually feel.
Yeah.
It is, yeah, it's wonderful stuff. It is one of the 2 gem quality tektites in existence. The other one being Libyan desert glass. And the problem is, you put that on, say, a 7-year-old, that's going to be the metaphysical equivalent of giving them, for those of you who understand Sonic,
Jolt.
a Route 44 sized chocolate milkshake.
Yeah. Sugar and chocolate and so much.
Quick explanation: a Route 44 is a 44-ounce drink.
Ah.
Yes. You will have said child bouncing off all 4 walls, the floor, and the ceiling.
I consider a chaotic energy stone.
So for
Yeah.
adults with fatigue issues.
Yeah, very much. Very much. Or also, you don't necessarily, because it opens up all the chakras simultaneously, you don't necessarily want your child that open.
No.
You see, that's part of the problem when dealing with metaphysical rocks. Sometimes kids' chakras are not as active as they should be for a reason. That reason being their own safety.
Yeah.
I know there are parents who, basically they want their 5-year-olds to be bodhisattvas, but I can think of some real serious problems coming from that.
Shouldn't open things you can't control.
Exactly. And it's really, unless you're one of the hyper serious kids like me who is, reading about dinosaur bones and excavations in Mesopotamia when they were in 3rd grade.
Yeah.
It's really understand that what you're giving most kids, what you're giving them are pretty toys.
Yeah.
Which is another reason to go for the inexpensive rock. The other reason you don't want to give a child a chunk of moldavite, it is very, very expensive these days. It's getting very rare.
Oh yeah.
It is.
It easily faked.
Yeah, because green glass. I mean,
Yeah.
It is the same color after all, of a Genesee cream ale bottle.
Yeah. So easy to make from recycled glass even.
Yeah. And it doesn't help that it doesn't actually have a crystalline structure, because as a tektite, it is an amorphous silica, which is a fancy way of saying glass.
Yeah. It's a naturally occurring glass.
Yes.
Well,
It's just
semi-natural.
like there's some things I've been seeing lately advertised called synthetic obsidian. And they come in all sorts of pretty colors.
Uh-huh.
They have bright yellow, they have a dark green, they have a deep sea blue, and they have a light aqua blue.
Okay.
The problem is, man-made synthetic obsidian is just a fancy way of saying glass.
Right.
Now,
Colors for all your chakras.
that is one use you could use them for. I mean, though at that point, I would use something like calcite,
Mhm.
which is another stone you don't want to give to a child who's still in the everything goes in the mouth stage.
Right.
Well, not so much because it is poisonous, but because calcite is, one, exceedingly fragile,
Yes.
because it is basically a crystalline calcium, and two, it's somewhat water soluble,
Mm.
which means, once again, child starts licking it or holding it in their mouth, it could disappear.
Right.
Now, the good news is all it's going to do is make sure the kid gets his or her calcium for the day.
Mm.
But once again, in contact with the stomach acids, not a good idea.
Yeah, this is not Tums.
Yeah. Same, by the way, goes for selenite, which is another very high energy stone.
Oh, yeah, and it shreds like anything.
Yeah, well, one, yes, the little splinters, even if it breaks, even if polished ones are okay for kids to handle. They're not good, especially the raw stuff that you sell or people sell, is because the little splinters will go into the skin and they will get infected very easily.
Yeah.
It's the mineral equivalent of porcupine quills.
Oh.
Mm.
So if you want to give your child a piece of selenite, get a piece of tumble polished. And once again, it's not recommended for small children. Once again, it will not hurt them per se, because it is only gypsum, which is basically calcium carbonate, which will, if ingested, will dissolve in the stomach. But once again, the kids will get gas, lots of it. And once again, there could be problems with intense stomach troubles.
Yeah.
So, also, given that most children pick up rocks, the other reason to have a good rock book is to find out what they have brought in.
Something good.
Now, a lot of the pebbles that people pick up, by the stream bank, coming out of the dirt when you're digging in the garden, a lot of those are usually some form of quartz. That is, once again, that's the cryptocrystalline or microcrystalline quartz. That's the same as the stuff you see in the big white seams you see when you are driving along the highway and you're going through a cutting, and you see in amongst the shale or the granite, you see these big white streaks. Those are streaks of quartz. So once again, quartz cannot hurt you per se, though amethyst will open you up psychically. So if it's a psychic energizer. So once again, depending on how you feel like about such things, you might want to hold off letting a child play with those until they are, once again, 9 or 10. Because it's once again, how open do you want your child?
Right. And only you can know where your child's
Yeah.
at.
It's really an up to the parent, and some of the parents I've run into at New Age fairs, fine, they want indigo children, they want crystal children. Give them a chance to be kids first.
Yeah.
They should
I
talk
must
to
admit,
parents who have one.
yeah, exactly. My first piece of, as it were, metaphysical mineral was a chunk of quartz that I'd found that had gotten washed out of a construction site. They were blasting and they were throwing the stuff away, and there was this big
Oh.
chunk of white shiny stuff. And it was from the point of, it was about the size of a softball. You know, it was a nice piece. So, you know, but if you're down by the beach and you pick up pebbles, they're probably going to be, they'll either be quartz, or if they're black, they're probably bits of basalt that got chipped off of a breakwater and have been polished. Because I noticed, at least here in Connecticut, a lot of the breakwaters, they put in the granite blocks and then they sort of chink them with pieces of basalt.
Oh. One of the things that I noticed that bugged my kids was when they were picking up river rocks, which are nice and polished, they kind of become pretty crumbled. When they dry out, a lot of the pretty colors that you saw when you found them on the stream bed go away. And we dealt with that.
You dip them in water again and realize that until they're actually polished, that's the best you're going to get. I had the same problem. Yeah, basically if
nail polish on them.
Yeah, that sometimes works. The other possibility is you get a rock tumbler. Don't understand that.
What my question was the how would that block the energy at all?
It shouldn't. It
Yeah,
shouldn't. I mean,
it's going to be the same surface of stone. It's just going to be very finely polished.
Yeah, I mean, tumbling rocks doesn't, because you go through various forms of silicon carbide, which round off all the sharp edges. And then you put the polishing grit in, which is, I think it's titanium dioxide. It's been years since I ran a rock tumbler.
Yeah.
And that basically,
even that doesn't add anything to the surface.
No, it just smooths it out.
Yep.
It's the same process as sharpening a knife, where you go through the various grits of the stone. And speaking about a nice stone to carry, right here, if you can see it, I don't know if you can see it, that is a whetstone. Oh, aluminum oxide, thank you. It's been so many years since I ran a rock tumbler. I kept burning out motors, so my parents stopped replacing it.
My first crystal ever was a Herkimer diamond. A friend of my parents took the whole family to the digs around Herkimer, New York, which I live near. And it's fun. You just kind of
I've wanted to do that.
Claw through the dirt, and my sister actually found the best one. She was, I think, about 4 or 5 at the time. And the theory has always been that she was just closer to the ground. But I still have that.
There are actually some motels these days that, as part of your room fee, you get access to the mine that they're built next to.
Oh yeah, they find every way they can to up the tourism.
Yeah, there's also a place in North Carolina where you can do that for sapphires, rubies, and emeralds.
And diamonds, I've heard. Yeah.
No, diamonds are in Arkansas.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Yeah, the only kimberlite plug in the United States is in Arkansas,
Okay. But
which
yeah,
also
the
explains all the really good quartz crystals that come out of there too.
every now and then in the news you'll see something about a tourist found a ruby or something, and
Yeah, that's usually in the Carolinas.
yeah.
And if you're really interested in opals, there are several, as it were, rent a 10 by 10 square for the day black opal mines in northern Nevada, not far from where they hold Burning Man.
Yeah, I wish I could do something like that. Travel is out of the question now, but I am fond of opal.
Burning Man would have been great when I was young, but I'm
Yeah.
I'm getting too
Yeah.
old for that stuff now. I want my
Yeah,
comfort.
yeah, unfortunately, I think I am reaching that point too. But back to stones.
Yes.
Like I said, does anybody have questions? Because I tend to run these things as question answer sessions.
Yeah, I was, kids will probably be going for, it's a color. Oh, what does this do? But first they're going to pick the ones they like the colors of. Would you start the kids off with chakras and tell them how to, put them on their belly or on their head or on that type of thing?
Once again, once they get past the toddler stage, and yeah, the main problem is they're probably going to want to do that to their friends, and that depending on who the friends' parents are.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the problem. You're not just teaching your child, you are teaching every child in the neighborhood or in their class.
Yeah.
Show and tell.
Exactly.
It's like, no, I know when you told the other kids you could ruin a car by pouring sugar in the gas tank, you'd never do that. But everybody in sound of your voice is not as responsible as you are.
Or shoving a potato into the exhaust.
Does that work?
It's an old French resistance trick, and it actually doesn't necessarily stop the truck, but it will kill the people in the in the passenger compartment.
Does it fill the car with carbon monoxide?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, naughty. We don't want the kids doing that.
Yeah.
If you get a good enough fit, I think that back pressure can cause explosions or something too.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of was expecting to happen. But
yeah.
Not that I did it, I just when I thought about it.
Once again, it is a good thing that Kathy and I didn't have children, because we probably would have created a bunch of truly little monsters.
And they might have taken out Trump.
Well, I always thought it was a good thing that he didn't meet Alfwine, because if the two of them, I didn't meet Kathy and Sean until after Alfwine died, and I was like, if the two of them had gotten together, we might have had, like like the hematite and the stomach acid.
I'm thinking specifically that would have been Zarkov and Frankenstein together again.
It would have been fun to watch
from a distance.
Anyway,
but once again, it really depends on the child and depends on the parent. I mean, I have friends who take their kids, they started taking their kids to the big rock shows when they were toddlers. Now, of course, most of these people are serious, quote, rock hounds, as opposed to metaphysical crystal crunchers like me.
Right.
So the kids originally grew up learning, this is feldspar, this is, galena, this is, but it is how you start kids.
I would imagine there are some good picture books for kids too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking it would be very hard if this wasn't one of your passions, and you notice that the kid is suddenly interested in it, and you can't tell them.
Exactly.
You don't know.
Exactly. Then if you are the astute type of parent, you go and you buy a beginning rock book at, well, I was about to say Borders, but Borders isn't around anymore. So you buy it at Barnes and Noble or Books A Million, which is another good place to buy gently used books that never actually had an owner except for a distributor.
Right. Usually the same kind of discount books that Barnes and Noble has.
Yeah, that's where the books that Barnes and Noble can't sell go. But and you learn what they are, what the child wants.
Well, I suppose the generic rule that is coming out of every one of these teaching children things is let the child's interest lead you.
Yeah. Don't drag the child to the mineral gallery of the Smithsonian if what they really want to visit is the Space Museum.
Or the dinosaurs.
Right.
Exactly. Because I must admit, when I was in the single digits, dinosaurs interested me far more than rocks.
Oh yeah. Don't they? Everybody doesn't every kid love dinosaurs?
Well, I had an exceptional advantage that when I was still in the toddler stage, if I was really good, I got taken to the Peabody Museum at Yale, and we went into the dinosaur hall.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Well, just remember there are 3 Peabody museums because the Peabody family had a lot of guilty consciences to deal with.
Oh yeah.
But yes, currently it is under renovation, so it's not open. I'm waiting. In theory, by next year it will be open again, and they finally put the right head on the Brontosaurus.
Oh, cool. I read about that. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, it turned out that the head that they had on it originally was indeed the right one.
And they switched it?
Well, they switched it to another head, which they said, oh, no, this is it. And then they realized, oh, no, this is the wrong one.
Yeah. They were thinking it was an Apatosaurus for a while, right?
And it turned out to actually be a Brontosaurus.
Broke my heart. Brontosaurus was my favorite. And then I found out that, oh, no, it isn't real. It was only a juvenile Apatosaurus. And I was like, oh. And then later it's like, no, we changed our mind. It was real. And I was, yay.
Yeah.
So
for me, it's the various Triceratopses. But let me see. Excuse me, just checking. Just checking the comments, chat room, so to see if there's any questions.
Yeah. Okay. So if somebody is out, the kids are out there and they pick something up, and it's a lovely white piece of quartz. Now we go to the shows and we can get the little clear quartz points, but what does a hunk of white quartz that you found yourself do that you can tell the kids about?
Among other things, you could use, if you're already into chakras, you could put it on pretty much any chakra.
Okay.
Now, understand the main difference between a chunk of quartz out of a seam and a quartz crystal is the energy is going to come from everywhere. Because it is an undifferentiated mass of microscopic quartz crystals.
Oh, okay.
Packed together.
And pointing in every direction.
Why it's called. Exactly.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter where you put it. It's going to radiate. It also depends on whatever shape it broke into when they were taking it out of the seam. And that's also one that you often find it's been cut into shapes. A lot of times you'll get that white quartz and somebody has cut it into what looks like a regular shaped quartz crystal. One way you can tell the cut ones is they're way more regular than the ones that actually Mother Nature cooked up somewhere down between the surface and the mantle. because they'll have nice regular points. They'll be, as in, all 6 points are the same triangular size, and a lot of times they'll be made out of things that don't come in crystals, like aventurine.
Yeah. Towers are a common shape these days, I think.
Yeah, but white, like I said, white quartz and clear quartz have the advantage that they're pretty much the universal crystal for just about anything.
Now, at
The
the
main-
landscaping stores and Home Depot and places, you can get bags of white stones. Is that white quartz?
I think that's actually granite.
Okay, bags of white
Really
stones.
fine
put on-
grained,
Yeah, to put
really
down as
fine
gravel or
grained
something.
white, really fine grained white granite. And granite is a wonderful stone, but it's a collection of things.
Right.
There is feldspar in it. That's the other thing it could be. It could be white feldspar.
Ah,
But there's
okay.
also, if you look at your standard, granite building, you'll see mica and feldspar and black tourmaline, and there may be some quartz mixed in, because it's a metamorphic rock, and it's something that got a big mass of hot rock that cooled, and everything kind of came out of solution depending on,
Mhm.
what its temperature was.
Yeah, I figure once your kid gets turned on to stones, they may be with you at Home Depot and start asking, "What's that white stone?" And
Hmm.
Yeah.
Also,
And the question is, if once you've started telling them, well, this does this and that does that, they want to know, so what does granite do?
yeah,
Are there answers for that?
Actually,
give
I
me a
believe-
moment.
Love is in the Earth, I believe, it covers granite.
I believe so. Give me a moment. I just happen to have a copy here.
Yeah,
Now I'm into the K's. Give
I
me
know
a
they've
moment.
got marble and other
E,
things. And
Yeah. E, F, G, garnet. G, A, G, O, G, R, graphite.
page before.
Granite. Granite is primarily composed of quartz and orthoclase, feldspar.
Place, yes.
Colors include gray, white, pink, black, brown. Apparently, it is of the astrological sign of Libra, and the first thing it says is can enable one to see the big picture instead of the mindset of see the puddle when there is an ocean awaiting.
Uh-huh. Interesting.
Let's see. Granite can also, it has been reported, granite can also bring one an increase in money, the mineral, including recognition of and generous overtures to the user. Vibrates to the number 2. Maintains balance in relationships and cooperative efforts. So, yeah, granite has a bunch of uses.
See, I just hate not being able to answer when once you have said, well, if you this will have this energy and this will have this energy, they want you to have an answer for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if it's one of those granites that has a large quantity of black tourmaline in it, it will be very good for soaking up negative energy.
Yeah. Now, all of a sudden,
Because
I
black-
realized it was something almost had to be that.
Yeah.
Last century banks were built of granite so often.
Yeah, well, a lot. It's true. They tended to build public buildings out of limestone or marble, and all marble is limestone with a pedigree.
Mm-hmm.
And banks and things were built out of granite. One, because granite is very hard, which makes it harder to break into.
Yeah.
And 2, because
It looked
when
impressive.
polished, yeah, exactly.
How much New Hampshire granite, after all?
New
Well,
Hampshire,
probably depends on where
Vermont,
you live.
face
Yeah.
it, most of New England is underpinned with shale that covers a layer of granite.
Yeah.
But depending on where it is, the granite can contain all sorts of things. It can contain apatites,
Mm-hmm.
Blue apatite is a good communication stone. Green apatite is a good heart stone. So I wish we had some people with children here who could actually ask questions.
For the
Well,
children,
But
yes.
that,
I had I have a kid who's just gotten into rocks in a big way, and I was going to say we should have her watch, and said I think she would do better. She'll try to take over the conversation. You won't hear anybody but her. So,
so
Maybe-
what you
I
do
asked
is if you
point of view, how do
want
you-
her
how
to
do
talk to me, if she basically have her watch the video
Mhm.
and badger her parents for the books.
Yes, I'll tell her where the used ones are.
Or
Yeah.
check the library.
Yeah,
Oh, that
I
would-
noticed
You're not going to find Melody
libraries
at the
are
library, but
yeah,
but can you- okay, I'm sorry. Modern world, she's a kid. She does not want to go to the library. She wants to look it up on the internet.
well, the good news is Book of Stones is available as an ebook.
Ah,
Also, I believe there is in their website, there is a reference section that covers every book, every rock that's in Book of Stones.
ooh,
cool.
So you can get the which basically what it is they scan the pages in, and so she could basically go there.
Okay, now we still have a few minutes.
Yep.
Thinking about the properties of rocks as the energy in them, as
Mhm.
opposed to the mass and velocity, which gives a
Mhm.
different set of properties.
The metaphysical energy as opposed to the kinetic energy.
Yes. What do you think kids would find useful? If you told us once to warn them away from.
I'd start them with clear or white quartz. I'd also start them with things like polished black tourmaline, which if you get them as beads, is not that expensive.
yeah.
Basically stuff that they could wear that would help protect them. It depends on how into jewelry the kid is.
Mhm.
Mm.
And as they get older, I would say if they're interested in sports, things that will support their physical body for sports.
Red
for
stones
anything,
are very good. Red rocks are very good for physical vitality.
Okay. Things that help their focus would be good for anything.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking black for grounding.
Yeah, black for grounding. And at that point, I would do the black stones that don't need to be cleansed regularly. So things like black tourmaline, smoky quartz, the self-cleansing stones,
Mm.
because that way they don't have to worry about that.
Oh, well, then you probably should teach them about cleansing, shouldn't you?
Yeah. But to start with, you use the ones that don't need to be cleansed. The main problem with especially buying quartz crystals at a rock shop is they probably came out of a mine and they're still vibrating vaguely from the blasting powder that was used to remove them. So,
Well, it makes sense because as a child gets older, you give them things that require a little more maintenance.
exactly. You don't buy them a puppy when they're 3, you give them a stuffed dog.
Mm-hmm.
Except, of course, if you're a Victorian, in which case you buy a pit bull puppy the day the child is born and they grow up together. But that's a different matter.
Well, my 3-year-old brother got a Beagle Terrier mix.
But that's a different matter because,
Yes.
Am I remember? I'm trying to remember correctly. I think malachite is good for asthma.
I'd have to look it up. But once again, malachite is one you have to be careful with a child because it is a copper-based stone, and copper can be a toxic metal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I seem to remember giving it to my godson when he was doing.
It's also good for just plain. It's also good for drawing out physical pain.
Mm.
Also good for
So, you know, it's a good boo-boo rock.
Mm.
Oh, boo-boo rocks. What other boo-boo rocks are there?
Well, let's see. For physical pain, my go-to is malachite, but there is also a form of serpentine called infinite. Used to be called
Infinite.
infinity stone. Yes, it's a form of serpentine, which is, once again, we're talking a form of quartz.
All right.
That's also very good for physical pain. Lepidolite or any of the lithium-based minerals are very good for emotional pain.
Makes sense.
And lepidolite and polished lepidolite is kind of pretty.
Yes, it is.
It's purple and it's got all the little shinies in it from the mica that's included in it. So it makes a nice, especially if the kids like purple.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, any of
Be
the
a good princess
lithium-based
stone.
yeah, lithium quartz, if you can find it these days, that's real. Once again, that's a very popular stone for. So it gets expensive. Another one, which is also expensive, but is a very good stone for, especially kids that are budding healers, is a
Mhm.
stuff called It's a stuff called tanzanite.
Oh,
The
yeah.
problem is it got very popular, so it got very expensive because, like a lot of these rocks, it has one source, which is
Oh.
gradually being depleted. It's kind of,
Of course.
that's the other thing. Some of these stones can get very expensive.
Oh, yeah.
The
Like,
good news is you don't need huge bits. I mean, I bought a lepidolite, or not a lepidolite, a tanzanite chip necklace.
mm,
That's also another way, if your kid is into wearing necklaces. The inexpensive gemstone chip necklaces are a good way to get the quartz onto kids.
oh, yeah.
I
You
mean,
may not have the
rose,
perfect forms, but you'll have a mass of it.
right. And as I've often said, mass means nothing in metaphysics.
True.
Witness the Herkimer diamond. I have Herkimer diamonds the size of a match head that put out more energy than a lump of quartz big enough to use as a doorstop.
Mhm.
Now, there have been a few exceptions. The massive smoky quartz point that one of my first teachers in witchcraft had in her apartment.
Mm.
Oh, I want that one, or something very similar to it. Simply because, when you're too much, you just grab hold of it and let it suck out the bad energy.
Mm.
And being smoky quartz, it's self-cleansing.
Ah,
Now, I have heard that tourmaline diameter of the piece can make a difference rather than length.
Once again, it depends on which kind of tourmaline.
Okay, black tourmaline.
Because, well, remember, tourmaline comes in various colors.
Right, watermelon and
And
so forth.
there's watermelon. It's also straight green, black,
Mhm.
red, and I
Mm.
think there is blue tourmaline these days, but I'm not sure whether if that's dyed or not. But I've never heard the diameter. I do know that if it's watermelon, it needs to be large enough that you can see all of the colors.
Okay, that makes sense.
But
I heard that
my
black tourmaline, because it grows in a linear fashion, it's more the diameter that makes a difference than the thickness of the slab.
With me, in diameter, it has to do with, will it fit into your life?
There's that.
For example, you do not want a 4-inch wide piece of tourmaline
Hanging
on
off
a
your neck.
bracelet or hanging off your neck. On the other hand, if you have six or a dozen tourmaline chunks that have been drilled and they're strung on a bracelet, that's an excellent shield. And once I get around to restringing them, I actually have a pair of bracelets that are alternating black tourmaline and Herkimer diamonds.
Mm. That sounds wonderful.
Excuse me, looking at the latest comment. Dyed but in blue and also purple. Ooh.
purple tourmaline.
Yes. Ooh.
Have a closed C-axis.
Remember, I work on the XYZ axis of spatial mechanics.
Cat's eye tourmaline.
Ooh. Now, usually I thought cat's eye was a form of chrysophase. I assume I pronounced it right.
Brenda, feel free to jump in here.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm not the only
We
rock
might want to have a
expert in here.
buying session afterwards.
Yeah, I've got a little list I'm starting.
Just remember
here.
for-
I gotta get some of that.
Just remember, Chipicon, if you feel like traveling, the first weekend in August is the East Coast Gem and Mineral in West Springfield.
Yeah, the East
Friday
Coast-
night, Saturday.
that's good.
Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday.
Some of us will be in Western Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I
On the
have
other
the two
hand-
crystals I need to find though, so
The question is, are you up for a trip to Springfield
no,
from
I'm
where
not.
you live?
No, I need to talk to somebody I can reliably buy crystals from,
Mm.
like here or something.
If I desperately need something, I'll contact you and have you pick it up for me.
Yeah, in many ways, crystals like pot is very much a know your dealer.
Yeah. And that's the thing is I don't know many dealers until they introduce me.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the Willow once had a really horrible argument with the guy behind the counter at a rock store who was saying, "Oh no, Jet and
It wasn't Donald Yannicka, was it?
what?
Wasn't Donald Yannicka at the store in
I
Wilton
don't
there,
know.
wasn't
It's the other black one that is totally not
Onyx,
the same thing.
onyx, obsidian.
Onyx and Jet are the same things. Like, no, they aren't.
No, they
And
are
he's like,
not.
This is my business, and I know they are. And it's like, she's like, okay, fine, I'm not arguing with you. Now, that's not something you can teach kids, is how to walk away.
Yeah.
But
Jet is
But
a
on the
form of hard. Jet is a form of coal, and
Mhm.
onyx is onyx. I'd have to look it up in the book to get the chemical formula.
Onyx comes
That
in a
is a
lot
nice-
of colors.
likely
Yes,
to
that is
trust.
one of the nice
person
things
that put it.
about Love is in the Earth. It gives you the chemical formula for each stone.
Yeah. Well, so are there any books you would warn them away from?
Not at this point. Most of the really bad rock books are out of print. I mean, there are a few that are really fluffy, but nobody has died from fluff.
Right. And it's a good way to introduce kids, I think.
So yeah, sometimes you need fluffy when you are dealing with children.
What about
Other children?
storing? How do you, is a shoebox fine, or do you like the windowsill, or what would you teach kids about that?
Don't
The problem with windowsills is certain crystals, when exposed to the sun, like quartz, will start to vibrate because the sun heats them up, and heat is one of the ways quartz crystals start to vibrate. And when they vibrate hard enough, they shatter.
Mhm. So you don't want to be constantly
Um,
energizing them.
Yeah, because your favorite crystal you may come back and you discover you have very large pieces of sand.
Right. Also, that purple amethyst may become clear quartz.
Exactly. Or it may become yellow,
Yeah.
because that's the first stage. So the windowsill is not necessarily a good place for quartzes. Also, because some stones, if they're exposed to the sunlight for too long, they're just going to fade like any
Mhm.
other color.
Hmm.
So you don't necessarily want to put them there. You also do not want to put any type of quartz crystal sphere in the sun,
Yeah.
because that
if you-
is a magnifying glass.
Anything the sun can
If
pass
I
through.
may
Yeah.
tell a story, I was reading fortunes. I was doing tarot readings at an outdoor
Mhm.
event once, and I had a crystal ball on my table just as I wash. and suddenly in the middle of a reading, one of the cards burst into flame.
Oh,
where well, the light had been coming through it and hit that card, and so and the guy was like, "Whoa!" And I leaned over and put it out, and he said, "Well, what does that mean?" So it means I put the crystal ball in the wrong place.
Exactly. There is also the old story about the guy who buys a crystal ball from a gypsy, and she tells him, "Okay, when you get it home and put it on the table, put a cover on it." And he says, "Why?" Because it'll, attract. He goes through a list. No, because if the sun comes through the window and goes through it, it's going to set the table on fire.
mhm.
Okay, well, we have now used up our hour.
Yep.
And I hope that for the sake of anybody who's watching this on YouTube, we have answered the questions. This is why, of course, you want to start tuning in to be live if you want to ask questions.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Starwolf.
You're welcome. I'm gonna go.
joining us.
I'm gonna go put some food in my stomach and some meds in my body.
Good
Thank you
idea.
for the information. It's been very helpful.
It's always good to be able to give the information to kids. So
Why?
thank you
Why is
everybody
it?
who came. And
Why is
Good
it not
night.
giving me the leave? Why is it?
you should be
Okay.
able to leave.
Um.
So, and
Bottom right
this is
corner?
where
There we go.
There it-
There we
wherever it
go.
is. Okay.
this is where
Dang
I
it,
remind people that the conference is coming up in November, on November 17th to 13th. And so you might want to go to the Changing Times, Changing Worlds or ctcw.net and register. And it's virtual. You'll get your choice between being able to go to live plus a month of access to the recordings, or a year access to recordings, depending on how much you want to spend or how long you want to keep on rewatching things. And come back to the YouTube channel to see any of the old Otherworldly shows. Remember, the occult is simply that which is hidden. It is the parts of the universe that we don't understand yet. So learning about the occult is simply learning about science. So that's where I'm going to leave it here. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you again next week, I hope.